In this video, I'm going to be going over 12 tips that I can give you guys for moving to Australia on a working holiday visa. My name's Dane. I've lived here nearly 2 years. I'm currently on my second year working holiday visa. I live down in Wollongong, which is kind of where I am right now. It's a very beautiful place. It's just coming into summer. I did a similar video last year where I gave you guys 20 tips for moving to Australia on a working holiday visa. However, I'm like 1 more year experience now. So I'm like, hey, let's redo this video with some bigger and better tips. Tip number 1, just do it. Do it now, like don't even think about it, just apply right now. Pause this video, go apply for the working holiday visa. No, I'm just joking. There are certain age restrictions. Obviously, the younger you are, the better you will be because you can get up to 3 years in Australia on a working holiday visa. So if you are 30, you can only get 1 year. If you're 27, you can get up to 3 years. So my advice, straight up, tip number 1 is just do it. Tip number 2, you need travel insurance, which brings me on to the partner of today's video, Safety Wing. If this is not your first time watching my videos, you have probably heard about Safety Wing because I talk about it an awful lot. Safety Wing has helped me travel the world. Safety Wing is a travel medical insurance that you can sign up on a subscription basis. And for $1.60 per day, you can travel the world, I can travel the world, knowing that we are covered if anything happens. Most people like you and me go to Australia to both travel and work. That is the whole point of a working holiday visa. Being on a working holiday visa and traveling all the time means that our life is now more unpredictable than ever. You know, maybe that pesky airline decides to lose your luggage, or maybe I fall over and I hurt myself and I need medical assistance. So I would highly recommend you get travel insurance because you don't want your big adventure down under ruined by a massive medical bill because you didn't get travel insurance. And yeah, I would be biased because they're partnering with my videos. I've used Safety Wing for a few years, so of course I'm gonna say that I love Safety Wing, but I'm not the only one. If you go on Trustpilot and you look at Safety Wing's reviews, they have so many 5-star reviews from other travelers. A huge thank you to Safety Wing for partnering with me on this video. I will leave a link down below in the description so you can find out more about Safety Wing. Now, let's get back to those 10 other tips that I promised you. Tip number 3. Kind of an obvious one, but if you don't know already, Australia is one of the most expensive countries to travel. So this piece of information will help you out a lot. People are always asking me, Dane, how do you travel Australia so much? It's so expensive. Well, the answer is I sign up to all the airlines marketing emails. The 3 main airlines in Australia is Qantas, Virgin, and Jetstar. So firstly, you're going to want to sign up to Virgin's Happy Hour sale, which they do every Thursday. So every single Thursday, they literally send a flight deal straight to your inbox. And then we have Jetstar, which is Australians' budget airline. They are always doing deals, so make sure you follow them on Instagram, sign up to their marketing, because I managed to book flights to Uluru this year for less than $200, when usually these flights are around $800. And Qantas generally do sales for international flights, so if you're looking to go to America, Europe, or Asia, definitely sign up with them as well. Another tip I have for you, you're not going to get eaten by a shark. Well, you could, really rare chance of that happening, but spiders and snakes. If you're from England or one of these European countries, which I'm from, then you have probably been conditioned to be scared of snakes, spiders, everything in between. I felt the same. I was like, do you know, I don't know if I can live in Australia because I don't know if I want to be eaten by a spider or a snake or maybe even a shark. Oh, and there's cassowaries as well, if you didn't know about those. But the good news is that's all a lie, kind of. So I've lived here about 18 months. My first year living in Australia, I only saw 1 spider. If you're living in the outback and rural areas, maybe you might see a bit more wildlife, but genuinely, if you are living in cities and towns, which most people in Australia do, it is highly unlikely you are going to get eaten by a snake or a spider, unless you're like very unlucky. Next tip, you might want to get a car. Now, I use the words might want to get a car because I myself did not want to buy a car. I get it. Cars feel expensive, it feels like a responsibility, but I can promise you, if you don't live in a major city like Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne, where you don't really need a car, having a car will dramatically improve your lifestyle. Lots of backpackers, when they come to Australia, genuinely they buy a car if they're not living in major cities. I spent my first 6 months living in Sydney. There is no need for a car in a place like Sydney. So the thing about cars is you don't need to spend a lot of money on a car. I probably budgeted about $5,000, which is not a lot of money at all. So what I'm saying is you can pick up a cheap car, but the good thing about having a car is road trips. Australia is a very big country, so just having a car gives you so much freedom. Although it's an expense, it's a responsibility. If you can pick up a cheap car, even for like 6 months, for 12 months, like it's not like it's gonna be your forever car. It's just something to get you around, something to make your adventures more fun. Like since I've had a car, I've done so many more road trips. I've just been able to explore different beaches. Like I live down in Wollongong, so I could only get around using my bike. Now I have a car, I can go to the Blue Mountains, I can drive down the coast, and that gives me more access to things like beautiful beaches and just heading off to the mountains. Tip number 8, Facebook is gonna be your best friend. So before I moved to Australia, I rarely used Facebook. However, Facebook is good for so many things. You need to find somewhere to live, Facebook. You wanna buy a car, Facebook. You just moved into an apartment and you have no furniture, Facebook. This next tip is a very unpopular opinion, and that is that I don't think you need a backpack. So there's a few things to consider when you're moving to Australia. Firstly, are you just coming to Australia? If that is a yes, just bring a suitcase. I reckon a medium size 60 to 70 litre suitcase is absolutely perfect. However, if you're coming to Australia and you're also going to places like Latin America or maybe Southeast Asia before or after your Australia trip, consider bringing a backpack. The reason I suggest bringing a suitcase is because Australia is a first world country, meaning there are sidewalks, pavements, pathways everywhere. So it's much easier to just wheel a suitcase and then have another bag for your day pack. I have personally done the East Coast. I spent 6 weeks traveling from the top to the bottom with a backpack on my back and a backpack on my front, and it was gruesome. I'm talking 35, 40 degrees in the heat. And think about it, if you're coming to Australia, you're likely gonna be spending longer periods of time in places. So I just did a packing video, I'll link that somewhere here. So go and watch that because I go into full detail as to like the pros and cons of backpack versus suitcase. But personally, if you want my advice, bring a suitcase or just do whatever you feel comfortable with. If you listen to one piece of advice in this video, let it be this tip. Whilst most backpackers go to the East Coast, you know, it's beautiful, you've got the Whitsundays, you've got Cairns, you've got Fraser Island, you've got all that good stuff. There is a saying in Australia that goes, the West is best, meaning the West Coast is the best coast. And I can confirm after traveling about 6 or 7 weeks on the West Coast is insane. Beautiful beaches, crystal blue waters, so many cool national parks. A few of my favorite places in the West Coast, if you do get the chance to go there, is Esperance, Albany, Busselton, Karajini National Park, and the Kimberley region. All these places are freaking mind-blowing. Get some friends, get a van rental, and head down the West Coast. Well, head up and down the West Coast because it's a pretty big state. Which brings me nicely on to the next point. If you're coming to Australia and you've never been here, travel the country and then figure out where you want to live. Australia is humongous. To put it into perspective, Australia is just a tiny bit smaller than the United States, and not many people realize that. So if I were you, spend some time traveling, go to some different areas, and then figure out where I want to live. Because if you're new to this country, you don't know anyone, you don't have any ties, so it's better to travel around. Do you fancy a cool national park vibe? Do you want to live in a small coastal town? Do you want to live in a vibrant city like Sydney? The world is your oyster, pal. Tip number 10. So it's no secret that Australia is kind of expensive. In fact, I think it's one of the most expensive countries to both live and travel. Good thing for you that the wages here are very high, meaning you can get a good paying job in Australia. But when you first start out, you do need a lot of cash. And I don't mean a lot as in like tens and tens of thousands of dollars, although that would really help you have an amazing time. I think the recommended 5,000 Australian dollars is enough for a month's worth of living expenses, including bond, rent, accommodation, wherever that may be, just to get yourself started. Honestly, I would just save as much money as you can, which is what I'm trying to say. And if you're planning to travel, I would budget at least $1,000 per week. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money, but hey, you've flown all the way to Australia, you want to have a good time. So $1,000 will easily cover food, transport, so like Greyhound passes, flights, buses, trains, planes, group tours, activities, Whit Sundays, Fraser Island, Uluru tour, you know, you get the drift. $1,000 a week, I think that will be perfect. Say for instance, your name's Bob and Bob is coming to Australia. Bob wants to travel for 6 weeks before settling down in a job in Sydney. So I would recommend Bob brings $6,000 for travel, and I also would recommend Bob brings at least $5,000 for setting himself up in somewhere to live. That would cover your bond for your rental, first couple of weeks rent, food, and a little buffer. So in total, I would recommend Bob comes to Australia with $11,000. That's probably like £5,500. Bob is gonna have a good time. Tip number 11, don't compare your experiences to what everyone else is doing. People on working holiday visas, they're age 18 to 35. They're all doing different things. Maybe someone's working in a bar in Queensland. Maybe someone's working in a cool city job and has gotten a relationship and is partying all the time. Everyone has different journeys. Personally, I thought I was gonna come to Australia, live in Sydney for a few months, and then move to somewhere random like Darwin. That did not happen. I ended up staying in Sydney for 6 months before moving to Wollongong and then getting into a relationship and setting up my own business. I could have never predicted any of that was gonna happen, but hey, it did. That's how life turns out. Everyone has different journeys and experiences, so it's important not to compare yours to other people's. This brings me on to the last tip of the video. We have finally got there, guys. Tip number 12, make use of my content. Pretty much my whole YouTube and Instagram has been about Australia for the past year and a half. Moving to Australia can be scary, but if you make use of my videos, hopefully it won't be so scary. I have a playlist which I'll link down below specifically for people moving here on a working holiday visa. We talk about accommodation, we talk about getting jobs, we talk about all sorts. I also have a free mini guide that you can download. This guide tells you about preparing to move to Australia on a working holiday visa. And if you want even more information, I recently just brought out an ebook, which is more comprehensive. It goes into detail about all sorts of things and is full of travel guides. So I'll leave that link down below if you want to check that out as well. That was a big mouthful, but basically, yeah, I have lots of Australia content on my channel. So my last tip is subscribe to see more videos because I'm still living in Australia for the foreseeable future and I have plenty to share with you guys. I'll leave the video here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it useful. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Obviously, I can't cover every single thing in these videos, but these are 12 tips that I would give you guys as a friend if you are planning to move to Australia on a working holiday visa. So until next time, make sure you hit subscribe, leave some comments down below, and yeah, take care and peace out.